Now let's look at drift diving descents. When using a surface float, descend along the line, but don't pull on it because you may drag the line handler or yank it out of his hands. Don't focus on the bottom. Watch the line and the group so you stay together if the handler swims across the current. Try to descend as quickly as possible, going around divers with equalization problems if you need to. If you have problems equalizing, stay with a line as you ascend a bit and try again. If you still can't, surface with your buddy and signal the boat to pick you up. When descending without a float in line, use a reef or wall as visual reference if you can. Again, it's important that everyone stay together and keeps the leader in sight. Equalization problems can be more of an issue because you don't have a line to keep you with the group if you have a delayed descent. One option is that if someone can't equalize, the entire group delays its descent and surfaces if necessary. Another option is for the buddy team to signal the rest of the group, surface, and get picked up by the boat. Drift diving tour procedures begin with the leader pausing at the planned depth and waiting for everyone to assemble. This is usually done drifting, but sometimes it may be stopped on the bottom someplace, sheltered from current. After making sure everyone's accounted for, the leader confirms the current direction and indicates the travel direction. During the tour, stay neutrally buoyant and generally horizontal, facing forward so you can see where you're going. Be sure you're streamlined with everything secure, making sure dangling gear doesn't snag anything. Allow ample space between you and the reef. Depth changes can be subtle, so pay attention to your computer and your ears. Maintain buddy contact and keep the guide in sight. The guide may swim across the current, so watch for his signals and follow. It's important not to miss the changes because you want to avoid having to swim against the current, which may be impossible or at best difficult. Stay in the group, up current behind the guide. If there are stragglers, the guide may swim gently into the current or duck out of the current so they can catch up. If so, follow the leader's example. If you and your buddy are a bit behind, swim with the current to catch up with the group. In all but mild current, direction changes require planning to compensate for the current. The leader will signal the change in advance, which usually requires swimming across the current to intercept or avoid something. Drift diving ascents may involve ascending as a group or in individual buddy teams. If the plan is for the group to ascend, the dive ends when the first diver reaches the agreed air supply limit, no stop time or other planned limit. Everyone would also go up if an emergency occurred. The diver signals a leader, who signals the entire group. As you ascend, control your buoyancy. Look up and listen for boats. If you're using a float or sent up a DSMB, ascend using the line as a visual reference. With smaller floats and DSMBs, remember not to pull against the line. The line handler comes up last, taking up line as the group ascends. If you're ascending without a line, you may use the reef or slope as a visual reference. Without a visual reference, use your computer to monitor your ascent rate. At 5 meters or 15 feet, the group makes a safety stop together. Using DSMBs, the buoy goes up when you reach a limit. Here's the recommended technique. First, retrieve the DSMB and reel. Put a puff in it so it stands and secure the line. Next, hold the unlocked reel in your right hand, line taut away from you in your field of view. Keep a finger on the spool so line doesn't unwind. Hold your DSMB opening over your regulator with your left hand, then quickly puff to inflate it. Immediately release the buoy, letting it rise rapidly. Use your hand to maintain some tension on the reel. This keeps the buoy from spilling and avoids reel jams. However, if it does jam, let it go and send up another diver's DSMB. The dive plan may call for individual buddy teams to ascend when either diver reaches an agreed limit. In this case, you signal the group leader, make a normal ascent, safety stop, and then get picked up by the boat. If there's a float, ascend along the float line and stay near the float at the surface. Another option is for individual buddy teams to send up DSMBs as they leave the group. When you surface, look to the boat for pickup instructions. Sometimes the crew will signal you to swim toward them. Otherwise, wait for the boat to come to you. Drift diving exits differ from non-drift exits primarily due to live boating and concerns about engaged propellers. After the safety stop, the group stays together during the final ascent. Look up and watch for boats. If you're using a surface float, the line handler takes up slack as you come up, but may leave enough for everyone to hang on to, so it's easier to stay together. Stay in the group, visible at the surface, and watch the boat for instructions. Do not approach the boat until signaled to do so by the captain or crew, because it may need to maneuver. The crew will brief you ahead of time if there are special exit procedures, but usually you wait near but clear of the ladder area until it's your turn to board. If there's a wind pushing the boat, the crew may put out a line or the leader may secure the float line to the stern so you can hang on while waiting. If you get separated from the group, establish buoyancy and relax. Deploy your inflatable signal tube or other signaling device and wait for the boat. If it's still picking up the group, you may have to wait a bit before it comes to get you. Shore drift dives usually have specific exit areas, so you usually surface well ahead of reaching your exit. Swim across the current towards the exit side of the shore. You should already be close to the shore the last few hundred meters or yards so that you can easily swim into the shallow water or secure a ladder or line without having to fight the current. Drift diving has some potential problems you need to be prepared to avoid and handle. The first is getting lost. In drift diving, being lost means having an unplanned separation from the rest of the group. If this happens, you need to take steps to rejoin the group. First, search for no more than a minute. You may swim with or gently against the current if you have reason to suspect you're up current or down current from the group. If you don't find the group within 1 minute, make a proper ascent, looking around for the float line or bubbles as well as above for boats. If you spot the line or bubbles, use them to rejoin the group. Otherwise, surface cautiously, inflate your signal tube, and signal the boat to pick you up. At this point, what happens varies with circumstances. The dive may be over for you, or the boat may help you rejoin the group. When shore drift diving, if you get lost, you don't know when to surface for your exit. If you can't reunite with the group, you usually stay at the surface so you don't miss the exit. It's worth reviewing current hazards since by definition, drift diving involves currents. The primary hazard is exhaustion and overexertion from trying to fight a current. Never try to fight a strong current. Stay well within your physical limits. If the current is too strong, it's more effective to ascend safely, establish buoyancy, and have the boat pick you up. Dealing with currents can cause psychological stress, primarily due to inexperience when dealing with them. You prevent this with training and experience with current diving procedures, including this course and the PADI Boat Diver course. You also avoid stress by staying within your abilities. Gain experience gradually. Never hesitate to cancel a dive you think would exceed your limits. You already know it's important to avoid buddy separation. Currents make separation easier because they can carry you apart. Also, a diver swimming markedly shallower may drift faster than a deeper one. Stay closer to your buddy when diving in currents, and check on each other more frequently. Entanglement isn't common in drift diving, nor is it a major hazard when it happens. It usually results from being careless around a slack float line. If it happens, don't turn. Instead, signal a buddy to help untangle you. Even severe entanglement isn't usually serious. If it happens, the group, tangled diver, and line go up together to deal with it at the surface, where you have the boat's assistance and unlimited air. You seldom have to cut the line, unless it happens to snag on the bottom, which is very unlikely. Many drift dives are exciting tours, but there are some specialty activities that you may want or need to combine with a drift dive. Deep diving is one common one because many popular drift sites have depths deeper than 18 meters or 60 feet. Aside from the usual deep dive considerations, on a floatless deep drift dive, you may have to make a midwater safety stop without a reference. Sometimes the boat deploys a bar or line to hang onto, but this doesn't work well if there's strong wind dragging the boat or if the boat will need to maneuver. Your dive plan should include how you'll make safety stops. If necessary, practice making safety stops without a line or reference before doing them on deep drift dives. Another deep diving issue is emergency breathing equipment. Although sometimes boats suspend breathing equipment with a safety stop line, again, this isn't possible if the boat will need to maneuver. Pony bottles and high-capacity cylinders are an option, but aren't widely available. The usual practice, then, is to plan for an extra-large reserve. Although this shortens the dive somewhat, it's offset by the fact that you're relaxed and using less air as you drift. Also, many drift dives offer multi-level profiles, so you end up with ample bottom time anyway. If you haven't done so already, it's recommended that you complete the PADI Advanced Open Water Diver and Deep Diver courses. You also have considerations with digital underwater photography and videography while drift diving. The primary difficulty is trying to stop to shoot something, which you can't do easily or at all. Sometimes you can make a planned stop with a group, but generally your best bet is shooting the group and scenery in motion. Leave close-ups and macro images for another dive. Be sure to maintain buddy and group contact so you don't get separated. Learn more about shooting underwater in the PADI Digital Underwater Photography and Videography courses. Search and recovery isn't a common drift activity, but sometimes the need for it comes up. The most effective search method is usually to drop a team off well up current. The team spreads out perpendicular to the flow and scans the bottom as they drift, deploying a heavily weighted buoy when they spot the search object. If they don't find it, the boat picks them up and carries them back up current for another pass. Once you find the object, recovery depends on size. For a small object, it's usually a matter of timing so that you drift upon it from up current and snag it as you pass. If the object is so large that you need to rig a lift bag, it must either be someplace out of the current, or in currents so mild you can do so without significant risk of exhaustion. After rigging the bag, raise it as you normally would, drifting in the water column as you ascend. You should be familiar with the techniques before attempting them on a drift dive. The PADI Search and Recovery Diver course is a great way to learn the basics. Drift diving is a relaxing yet exciting way to dive that opens the door to new adventures and sights. Once you've tried it, you'll probably want to drift dive whenever you can. Have fun, wherever drift diving takes you.